Hello, welcome to the Diverse Leader Podcast, a show where we explore the many dimensions of diversity and how it shapes your world. I'm your host, Gareth Mutema, and I'm excited to embark on this journey with you. So, today I am going to talk about leadership. This is the Diverse Leader Podcast, and I'm going to talk about leadership. And leadership is an exciting topic to touch on, as it's got many gems or golden pearls of wisdom that you can draw out of it. And leadership can mean a lot of things to different people. And leadership has many hats and caps and grades and levels and tiers or t-shirts, depending how you grade things. And it's just a subject I was eager to talk about as we build our friendship, our family union. I think this is a family kind of thing where I see you as my family out there, and I hope you see me as your family as we grow and learn more about each other through these podcasts. And please make sure you put in your suggestions as well in the comments. I've now launched my YouTube channel, so subscribe. What are you waiting for? And share, like, that subscription click. It's motivation for me to keep going and keep delivering and doing what I have to do to just create content that we can talk about, discuss about, share our experiences together, and give each other voices, especially those ethnic voices as well, to come on this platform and actually share their journeys, encourage somebody out there that looks like me and others, and also those that are diverse in many other aspects, whether it be neurodiverse or any other forms of diversity. This is the platform. You're welcome to come and share your stories and your journeys on here. So, why did I choose leadership? It's part of our lives, and it's part of my life and my journey. And I think it's something that we need to explore and almost peel its layers as we go. And the first question I had for myself is, what is leadership then? What is it to me? And perhaps it's a question, what is leadership to you, listening or watching on YouTube or on any other platforms that you listen to your podcast on? To me, leadership is influence. And I always say this, leadership to me is definitely influence. And looking back in history, all the great leaders had a way, or with words, or they honed in skills to seduce the masses, be it through charm, charisma, or any other character or some characteristic or skill that falls under those parameters. It's always been a thing to be able to communicate so that people can actually accept you as a person of influence and listen to what you have to say. And most leaders not only master that art of seduction or seducing the masses, saying the right words, they've also been able to penetrate through the hearts and minds of people by having that ability to, as I said, influence, but to persuade using maybe the reputation, skill sets, and get people to follow them and execute that desired outcome or that desired vision plan. So there's two key things there, vision and plan as well, that's in there, forms part of leadership, or the definition of leadership, having a vision and a plan and being able to then influence change. So leadership is a life skill. To me, I see it as a vital life skill to be able to lead. And leadership is a journey of self-discovery. And, and we find leadership in all the mundane tasks that we have to deal with when we're dealing with other people, other individuals, constantly making decisions, we're constantly influencing change, we're transforming our lives or other people's lives or projects, and anyone who comes across or around us. We are constantly making leadership choices and decisions on a daily basis. And that kind of summarizes, I know I've touched on different things, but that kind of summarizes what leadership is to me. What is it to you? What makes you a great leader? Or what makes you think of what a great leader looks like, right? And another thing that then came into my mind when I was thinking about leadership, how we should lead, is we need to understand, is it a calling? Is leadership a calling? Are you called to lead? Are they a select few that are called to be leaders? What is your take on that? And when I pondered on this and thought on this, I came to a conclusion that, or a belief that we are all called to lead, young or old, frail or strong. We are all called to lead. Why do I say this? Because leadership has many levels and many caps or hats that you can wear on any given individual. To be a mother, to be a father, you could be parents, you could be a grandfather, grandmother, you could be a teacher, a CEO, you can be janitor, you can be whatever. But in all those roles that we play, whether it be at home, at work, or in the community, we are all leading at some form, shape, or level. So we are called to lead, whether it be our families or relationships, our work or business, our faith or spirituality. There is a call to leadership on all of us. So that's why this topic is so important to master and to continuously learn. What does it mean for you in your workplace and environment that you're in? What does it mean for me? So to me, I could add on to what leadership is. I think leadership is purpose. Leadership is a divine purpose that is bestowed upon each and every one of us. And, I look at my family on the family perspective, my father being the leader of the house, because we have a very traditional family. His purpose is to keep us safe, to make sure we walk on the right path, to, not to repeat the same mistakes that he did, perhaps as well, and just make sure there's that security, right? And there's a sense of purpose in him as a father, the sense of purpose in my mom and what she teaches us and what she has taught us, what she continues to teach. So that's why I go back to leadership is purpose, depending on the situation you're in. And what then are the ingredients that make you and me? Because as I said, we're all leaders and depending on circumstance and situation, right? But what are the ingredients? And I was thinking about this and I was thinking, well, some of the ingredients, I thought four things. The first ingredient is a leader should inspire confidence. You need to be able to inspire confidence, bringing people on the journey or taking people on a journey, being able to tell a story confidently to allow that influence to kick in and people to actually follow. And an example of a great leader of yesterday, ancient leader, Hannibal Barca. You heard the stories. That was this. However, he was a great leader, despite some of the practices he took in. He was a great leader, great military man, and he was waging war against Rome for years. And I think he defeated Rome on several battles over a course of 16 years. And this stretches back to like 218 BCE. And one thing that Hannibal was good at was to lead with confidence. People would follow him and listen regardless. He once led his army to cross over the Alps, and that's no mean feat, right? He had 37 elephants, some soldiers on horseback, most of the soldiers on foot. And he convinced them that we need to cross these Alps to Italy and wage a war there, and we're going to win. And everyone knew not everyone's going to make it through the Alps. The weather is bad, freezing temperatures. This is 280 BCE. But he was confident he could was able to inspire people to follow. And the second thing I was thinking about as an ingredient that you need, I know there's an exhaustive list, but I narrowed it to 4. The second thing is leaders need to lead by example. You need to lead by example, right? To be effective. And I can touch on examples like Rosa Parks in America sitting on a bus, refusing to move. I can talk about Martin Luther King, examples that most people relate to. I could talk about Queen Elizabeth, right? Or late Queen, how, as controversial as the monarchy can be in this country, there's, people, split on whether are they relevant or not. But I think she was an example of a great leader who, until her deathbed, she was answering the call to duty, right? Illness or sickness stopped her from performing her duties. And she swore in, I remember this vividly, she swore in controversial prime minister, the lettuce, the lettuce saga, Liz Truss, right? She did that just days before she passed. And you could tell she was not well. She did follow through, led by example. And now King Charles and everyone else who's going to follow after, they now have this blueprint to look at. What an example. She chose service over, her own personal luxuries and listening to her body and ailments. How many people can sacrifice everything for their job? Not a lot. Even if you get paid whatever, you need some people have those boundaries. Like, no, mate, I'm not going to do this. No, fella, I'm not going to force up. I need to be home. I need, lead by example. And the other ingredient I was thinking of is leaders need to be fearless. That there is a sense of fearlessness that we're lacking sometimes as leaders. We are people pleasers. We are looking to please everyone. We're looking to say yes to everything most of the time. And we're not fearless enough or, to stand and say, no, I'm doing this. No, this is not going to work because of that. We are too concerned about our personal image over the order of business, right? And I like this quote from Chief Red Eagle of the Creek Indians in America. He said, "I fear no man, for I am Creek warrior. Fear no man, for I am Creek warrior." This chief was facing extinction at that time. And I think he's in Alabama, where his warriors had been massacred, villages dispersed and chased into the woods. And he handed himself forward and he made a speech. And that's one of the quotes when they say, "I fear no man," but he was making a plea to say, well, we have done everything to fight you. We can't go any further. However, free our people and just take me instead. That kind of situation. But we need to not fear people. We need to stand our ground. We need to be able to face the music, good or bad. And that's a quality that's needed in our leaders. And how do you get there? Because you know thyself. If you listen to Lunchum Caesar, when I did a podcast with him, he started clicking when we talk about knowing thyself, saying, oh, it's poetry. Because it's deep. You need to understand who you are for you to be able to stand tall like a cedar tree and be not moved by the winds around you that can blow you to and fro, right? So that's another quality that I think we'll need to consider when we're doing our self-evaluation, our leadership MOT. And another one is, and this is the last one I'll pick on, is this ingredient is key. Leaders have to have a vision. Sounds simple, but without a vision, my people perish. That's like a biblical reference there. Where there is no vision, people perish. And it's key. Why do I say this? This, above everything I've said, this is the most important thing. Whether you're starting a business, whether you're going into a marriage, whether you whatever you planning on doing, you need to have a vision on that, right? And why? Because a vision not only gives a sense of direction, it gives a sense of discipline, it gives a sense of energy. And I think leaders that lack a vision, they don't go far. You can't lead your home without a vision of where you see your kids being in 10 years, what school you've envisioned them being, and etc. You plan out your life, right? Based on a vision, which then translates into a plan, which then translates into action, then translates into smart goals of how do we achieve these things. You need to be organized. You need discipline. You need energy. And that comes through a vision. So we talked about leadership being a purpose. We talked about the ingredients that you need, or some of the ingredients that you need that can make you into a great leader. We talked about leadership itself, and my version of leadership is leadership to me is influence, being able to influence, being able to convince and persuade people to follow your plan, and leadership being a skill that you need to hone and need to improve over time. The last missing puzzle is probably, do you have a blueprint? It's probably where I'm getting to. Do you have a blueprint to leadership? Because when you're working with others, it requires strategy. It requires patience. At some points, it requires toughness in maneuvering certain situations, understanding politics, work politics, people politics in general, organizational politics, which is kind of work politics, and politics and its tricks, right? You need to be able to understand all of those, and having a blueprint, which is to me mentor, someone you can be accountable to, someone you can rely on to help you maneuver, is key. This world is ruthless. This world is not fair. And see a lot of people expecting things to be fair, expecting things to be handed over to them, expecting the universe, in quotes, to step in and just make things right. But the truth is, it's not fair. It's not, things just don't happen, right? These are some of the misconceptions we have to life. We just think things just happen. Let it be. It will happen when it happens. Look at all the successful people you know. They make things happen. My father wrote a book, and I mentioned this in the past. Edward Mutema, he wrote a book saying creating opportunities at the edge of chaos. That's one of his books. Look it up, and great book, great read. You need to create opportunities for yourself, and sometimes these opportunities come by making sure you have the right people around you aligned to you. Align yourself with the right people that can actually stop you from falling out of line. Yes, you can still fail, but with the right guidance and the right advice and the right people around you, you're not going to fall as hard you fall. And they're going to help you even avoid certain pitfalls in your life, right? And the blueprint will teach you how simple things like how your reputation is so important that you should guard it with your life. Because people don't respect you, they're not going to follow you. If your wife, your husband, they lack respect and they don't respect you, they don't trust your word, or you never keep up to your word, you don't have integrity, don't expect them to lap up to any ideas that you've got, or any steer that you're trying to, they don't get, we can't trust you. So a blueprint, your mentor, a person that you can be accountable to, can help you achieve. And it doesn't have to be one person. We all are constantly changing. We all evolving. And at certain seasons in your life, you require someone who guides you financially as a financial mentor. In another season, if you're married, you need some kind of marriage counseling, probably, or you need someone, or as someone who's in that successful world of a good marriage to point out certain things. But you do it, oh, if you keep going down that route, it might not end well for you because, and my experience is, so we often drift through life thinking we know it all, thinking we can fix it all, thinking because I've overcome X, Y, Z, I can do it by myself. But it doesn't really work like that. If you really want to achieve and if you really want to be an effective leader, truth is we all need someone to help us to avoid certain mistaken pitfalls. We all need a sounding voice. I was watching some show, Gladiator, where Marcus Aurelius, whatever, he almost seemed like he's unbeatable, he's a god and stuff, in that movie, right? But there was always something that humbled him. He had these two things that reminded him of his family. And then he had the mentor, I forgot his name, that always reminded him he needs to just win the crowd and need to do this. And he was guided and he had a place where he could go back and remember where he came from. We need that mentor who can pull us back, who can act as those things that remind us of where we're coming from and where we need to be. And then we can avoid certain pit stops or pitfalls along the way. So get yourself a blueprint, get yourself a mentor, get yourself someone who can make sure your leadership style can be checked and you always inspire the confidence. You can always lead by example. They can make sure that you are fearless. They can make sure that you have a vision and you're not having grandiose ideas as well. You always need that reality check, and that blueprint can help you with that. And as I said, it doesn't have to be one person. We have different situations that we go through in life, and different people can cater for certain different needs in our lives. So you can have multiple mentors. It doesn't have to be one person. And I've benefited from having great mentors. And my father will always say, who is the pastor's pastor, right? So who is looking after the leader? Who's the leader's leader? And sometimes we're so lonely as leaders that we forget that we need always to reach out and find an outlet where we can burden, unload. Because the cross is heavy of walking around with some of these problems that we face in life. They form a big cross that we're carrying around. We need an outlet. You need an outlet. I need one too. And finding that mentor for whatever situation we're going through enhance our leadership or increase our influence or build on the respect and the respect that we need to be able to persuade and influence change. And it will just make us so much better than we are probably today. So leadership is influence. Make sure wherever you are working on your influence and your skill to communicate and be able to persuade and transform everyone or everything around you and have a sense of purpose and realize what that purpose is and what is your calling, because I think we're all called to lead. And also inspire confidence, have those ingredients that I talked about. Be confident, inspire confidence, and be an example, right? People don't follow what they don't, if you're not a good example, people won't follow you. One, lead fearlessly, being as fearless as possible. And that plays to the confidence bit as well. And have a vision. Because if you have a vision, you'll have a sense of direction. You'll have a sense of discipline and you'll have a sense of energy. So let's get out there. Let's lead in whatever environment or situation we're called to lead. As you can see, the light has gone off. It's probably close to time. I'll just turn it on again. There you go. One man band. This is what happens. You have to do everything. So I need to learn to rely and lean on others as well to help out. Good example, isn't it? And so for those who are not seeing what just happened, go on my YouTube channel, like, subscribe, share. I think you sharing and liking and subscribing, it motivates me to do this as well. And it gives me that energy that I'm talking about when we talk about purpose. And I think my purpose, a sense of, I've been blessed with the confidence to speak and preach this gospel of leadership and tackling diversity, equity, inclusion, and bringing the voices of the voiceless on this platform and to the world. And that gives me a sense of purpose to be able to speak on those that cannot stand up for themselves and speak, and tackling all these topics that some people cannot talk about. And I'm privileged enough to be able to come before you and freely talk about things and to just help have a conversation, build each other up, and hopefully make your tomorrow better. So this is the Diverse Leader Podcast. Please, 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 the YouTube channel is on. Like, subscribe, share. And one thing I wanted to say is I did announce a competition last week when I did the 3Ps, people, perspective, and our people, place, and perspective podcast, the 3Ps. I did say there were 2 bags up for grabs. Taru Jingo in Zimbabwe, one of my good friends from boarding school, she weaved these by hand, the handmade by McCrane fiber. Very nice bags. Summer's coming up. They're up for grabs if you want to win one. It's just supporting Tarira as well. She's hard worker and she's got a team of people that make these bags. So there's an opportunity to win 2 bags. But if you want to know more about her, just DM me or put a note. And to win the bags, #bag on Instagram, tag a friend, and also subscribe on YouTube. And in a couple months' time, depending on the traction on this, I'll announce 2 winners as well. So, but thanks for listening. And again, understand what leadership means to you. To me, it's influence, it's purpose, it's a calling. And we need to inspire confidence. We need to lead by example. We need to be fearless. We need to have a vision. And above all, have a mentor, be accountable to someone. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next week. Thank you.